Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be our third episode of our podcast series named What the Idea, an initiative by ESEL NIT Rourkela. I am Aditya Chauhan along with my co-host Anmol Agrawal to be host this session. Today we have the absolute privilege of welcoming a true trailblazer, a dynamic leader, and a relentless champion for positive change. She is not just being a CEO, she is the visionary founder of Break the Ice organization. She is not just being an achiever, she is the former regional officer for Asia Pacific with UN SDG goals. She is not just being a mentor, she is nurtured startups at prestigious institutions like NIT, VNIT Nagpur, and IIT Bombay. And if that wasn't enough impressive, so let me tell more about her. She has recently been featured in the iconic Times Square's a testament to her global influence. She has earned recognition as a LinkedIn top communication voice and has rightfully claimed her spot among BW Wellbeing 30 under 30. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcomes to the extraordinary Palakh Khanna. So, ma'am, it's
Thank you
truly
so
an
much.
honor to have you with us today, and we can't wait to dive into your incredible journey and learn from you.
Thank you so much, Aditya. Thank you, Anmol, for having me.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that was a very uh, good introduction. I think you included everything about me. So, looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, I would request you to take a moment and tell the audience about your organization, Break the Ice.
Definitely. So, Break the Ice is trying to literally break the ice about taboo topics and stigmatized
Yeah.
topics, anything that
Hmm.
society is either uncomfortable talking about or simply ignores. So,
Hmm.
we're trying to start those conversations, start that kind of awareness amongst young people. And we're working in 10 countries currently. We're just breaking the ice about important taboos like mental health, menstruation, gender equality, climate change, everything which is very important, and you have to start
Yes, ma'am.
conversations around
Yes,
it. So
ma'am.
yes, that's what we've been doing, and we have young people as a part of the team, so we are for the youth and by the youth.
Ma'am, why the name Break the Ice?
So like I said, we are trying to break the ice about important
Yes, ma'am.
conversations. So when I was creating the organization, I thought, why not keep such a name that would initially instantly also start conversations, because you
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
have to do too much when you say we are break the ice. People will say,
Hmm.
what does that mean? And you're already breaking the ice with important people. So
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that was the goal.
Okay, okay.
So, Break the Ice is not a run of the mill organization. So, we are all curious to know what inspired you to kickstart Break the Ice. And can you share with us, is there any personal experience or any pivotal movement that ignited the spark, compiling you to take that action to and start this remarkable initiative?
Okay. So, yes, absolutely. I had this moment. So, basically, I'll give you a backstory.
Hmm.
Until class 11th, I was one of the biggest introverts you would ever meet. So, that's been me throughout my entire life. I was someone who didn't even share her own feelings, let alone talk about taboo topics or get into business. Um, and during the pandemic, I had overheard this conversation between my mom and my domestic help. And I've told everyone about this because it's a very important thing that kind of changed me as a person and started my
Hmm.
journey. So my domestic help had had her periods at our place, but she was very uncomfortable asking for pads. And I went to my mom and I said, we as educated people, as educated urban class families, cannot push this stigma forward. And that's when I thought, why not create a platform where we will only talk about things which are, often pushed under this ignorance. And that's how Break the Ice came into the picture. And fast forward to today, I have transitioned from an introvert to, I won't say an extrovert, I'm still taking my time with it, but I'm an ambivert who talks on stages and talks about taboo topics. So yes, that's been the transitional period, and that was a moment I'll of course always remember.
So it's impressive that how you have told that how Break the Ice had spread its wing in 10 plus countries. So promoting open conversation on taboo topics can be quite challenging while dealing with diverse cultural context and that all thing. So could you share some of such challenges you have encountered in your journey? So that would be helpful for our listeners.
Absolutely. So I think it's been very difficult. So when we talk about taboo specifically, they are very very different across cultures. There are some countries that are comfortable talking about, for example, climate change. They are more promoting it at every level. There are some countries that are awkward about talking about periods in itself. There are some countries that are banning LGBTQ. There are some which are promoting it
Yes,
and
yes.
openly being very inclusive. So when we talk about taboo topics like that, I think for us that's been a big challenge. Just being very culturally inclusive, but also very culturally sensitive, because you really have to be sensitive with taboo topics. So absolutely, we face challenges in that. But what we've tried to also do is have people in our team who are from these 10 countries and more countries, and also ensuring that we also connect to the local people in those countries, so that through the local communities we're able to understand directly from them on how we can maybe break those stigmas in every culture possible. So yes.
So, ma'am, as we look forward, what is the future aspirations of the Break the Ice? Means, what are your endeavors in the future pipeline of this organization?
So at Break the Ice, we're actually hoping to build a globally safe space. That's what we try to call our mission. We want to create a global safe space for young people. And this would not just be limited to online or offline platforms, but also a different app that we're hoping to create in the near future, where we will just have young people talk about things which are not supposed to be talked about, very very anonymously, if that's what they want, because we've realized that stigmas also come because a lot of judgment happens. So we're trying to work on that, have an app, also do more and more offline events, and just connect with the right kind of people, and also reach out to remote areas. So that's our vision and our mission for the next 5 years, hoping to also multiply to more and more countries, because we've realized in those 10 countries, the moment you have more countries and more cultures under you, more and more impact happens. So yes, that's also my personal mission, that we have to reach out to more and more countries. So presently it's 10 plus, hoping to reach 30 plus at least.
Yes, ma'am, what are the in starting the Break the Ice? What are the initial challenges you faced while starting it?
Interesting. There are many, to be honest. Number one would be, for everybody who's listening to this and someone who's young and wants to be an entrepreneur, you will face the age barrier. It is a big stigma, because when you're young, you're still exploring, and as an entrepreneur, you're anyways, experimenting with a lot of things. So one major challenge that I faced was being a young entrepreneur, and I know that a lot of people face this. I've talked to so many people around this. Um, just keep going and keep hustling around it, and you'll figure it out very soon. Um, the second challenge I faced was, to be honest, just getting out of my own comfort zone. So I know a lot of people might not face that kind of a challenge, but I did, because again, I was an introvert, randomly started talking about taboo topics. I was like, I need to step out of my own shell to get started with this. So for me, I think that was a major challenge that I faced, that how do I reach out to the right kind of people? And one more very important thing, and I've talked about this everywhere, is nobody teaches us how to network as entrepreneurs. And
Yeah,
that's kind of something that I've learned for the past 1.5 years on how, because you can network as a student, you can network as someone who's looking for an internship, you can network as a professional, but how do you network as an entrepreneur is something which is very different. So that was a challenge I faced, and I kind of overcame it. And now I try to help people with it, because it's an interesting thing. You're not reaching out to someone for an internship. You're not reaching out to them for, some kind of a benefit. You're actually reaching out to them so that they either get to know more about you or your company, or become your customer. So at the end of the day, it's a very longer process. So yes, I think that was a major challenge, and I hope other people who do face it are able to like overcome it soon.
yes, ma'am. So,
Okay. So you were talking about network. You also have a network of 67,000 plus LinkedIn members, followers, which are truly impressive. So our audience would love to know some of Ignatius strategies you employed to not to attract, but also actively engage such a substantial audience in what seems like a relatively short span. So can you unveil some of the secrets behind your social media success? Or
That sounds like a headline, secret tips to growing on LinkedIn. I think
yeah,
very, very
this
importantly, yeah, go ahead.
the thumbnail. I
Definitely.
think this is going to be thumbnail will work for us and you both, I think.
For sure. For sure. So, number one, if you are a student, get started with networking as soon as possible. Again, nobody talks about it, but I know it's gradually becoming a thing. But for everybody who's listening, who's a student, get on LinkedIn as soon as possible. Not just creating a profile and just ghosting, but actually having an optimized profile. And even if you are someone who doesn't want to create content, it's okay. Have an optimized profile and at least reach out to 2 new people every month. That's what I tell every person. Because what happens is, you might have a profile, you might even have a lot of experience, but what makes you stand out on LinkedIn is how you're expressing those opinions or those lessons that you learned from those experiences. So someone might have 20 experiences in terms of their resume, but if they're not able to tell other people that, hey, I have experience and I know things about this and I'm passionate about this, nobody will get to know you, because there are billions of people who have created an account on the platform. So number one, have an optimized profile. And by optimization, it's very, very basic. A good cover, a good headline, a good picture, and a good about me. Second, when you have an optimized profile, reach out to 2 new people every month. If you can increase the number, do that. If you feel like you don't know how much you can do this, it's fine. At least have that minimum goal of 2 new people every month. Don't randomly reach out to anyone. Select the people very, very wisely. They should either add value to your experiences, or they should be someone you aspire to be. Simple as that. You either want to collaborate with them or you look up to them. There's no in between. um, and when you're reaching out to them also, number three, very importantly, networking happens only when you do it well. So when you're reaching out to new people, make sure you highlight why are you reaching out to that person only. So what I call it is why square. There are two whys when you're reaching out to anyone. Number one, why are you reaching out to them, the reason. And number two, why are you only reaching out to them, only that person, so that the person knows this is not just a random spam message, but something very, very valuable. You've chosen the person and you're writing to them very consciously. When that happens, 99% of the times you'll get a response. But how do you convert that to a long connection is up to you. So again, those tips I probably can't give because it's very experimental with every person, with their niches, their industries. But make sure you at least do 2 to 3 things. Have an optimized profile, highlight what you have experience in so that other people who are like-minded can connect with you. Number three, always make sure, be if you're creating content, which I hope you do in the long run, just make sure you're consistent with it and you're adding value with it. And number four, network the right way. So yes, I think that's how I tried to grow on LinkedIn. And I've been, kind of successful with it, still exploring it a lot. But yes, I think that can be done by every student.
So, you are talking about consistency on social media, right? You are doing many things in your life. You are at the same time you are doing something for United Nations. You are the CEO and founder of your organization. So could you shed some light on how you manage to maintain a consistent stream of valuable content, and how can anyone manage this all? Because I am in NIT Rourkela, so I am in my second year. I feel that we have nothing but time crunches. We are doing colleges and that's it, nothing else. And so how can anyone, because you are also I think getting education from DU, so how do you manage this all?
Wow. This is a question I ask myself every day because I also feel like I have a lot of time crunch. Number one, make sure you have a priority list. It's very, very important as students that, again, you have to focus on education. I'm someone who values education a lot. So I would never say that, don't value college. I am from DU. So I do feel like there's a time crunch always. You're rushing in terms of classes, assignments, exams, studies, everything. But you need to have a priority list of what you want to achieve in the next 3 months. And these can be like unexpected things, huh? This doesn't have to be very, very like small or very, very big. It can be mixed. Just have a strategy on how you want to achieve those goals in the next 3 months. That's what I do. And why I'm saying 3 months, because if I set a goal for myself for the next week, I won't complete it. I know it. I would procrastinate my way through it, or I'll have so much work that I won't be able to get it done. And then I'll feel demotivated and guilty and I'll not do it. But that's not the point of setting goals. Number one, choose a time frame for yourself that will work. It can be 1 month for someone. For me, 3 months works because I know that what happens with 3 month goals is that when I look at them every single day, I know that maybe I need to work harder on this thing. And by the time those 3 months end, I'm almost always able to achieve those goals because I've worked hard on them for the last 3 months, because 3 months is a long time, right? Because either what will happen is, number one, you'll achieve the goal. Number two, you will realize what went wrong and maybe you'll achieve it in the next month, in like the fourth month. Number three, you'll realize, okay, maybe this is not the goal for me anymore. I have had a redirection in my goals and I'll step back from it. So basically, at least I'll be able to remove it from my list. So have that kind of priority as a student specifically, because you want to also stand out from other people. And that's why I have also tried to do everything that I'm doing, because I want to stand out, and specifically I'm very ambitious. So if you're someone like me, have a 3 month goal and try to achieve at least 80% of that list. What will happen is you will see a big transition in your personality and in your personal development in those next 3 months. If you feel like that's very difficult, increase the time frame to 4 months. Don't keep it beyond that. At least, have that kind of limitations for yourself as well, because psychology proves if you set deadlines for yourself, you will be able to most likely achieve things faster. If you don't set deadlines, you will say, oh, I have to achieve this, when will I be able to do it? I make sure you'll not be able to achieve it ever until you actually set a deadline for yourself. Okay, number two, always have to-do lists. If that works for you, works wonderfully for me. I pressurize myself to get my to-do list complete every day, otherwise I won't sleep. If that is something which works for you, try that. So 3 month goals are different, to-do lists are different. To-do lists are smaller things that you want to complete every day and can be achieved, so that you're not overburdening yourself as well. You don't want to burn out, but you also want to make sure you're upskilling. Okay, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's what I do. If you're someone who also wants to, and also always pay gratitude. That's something I learned very recently from a very, very famous creator. He told me, just journal what you have achieved and what you thought you'll never achieve. What happens is you also feel appreciative of yourself, and that reduces your procrastination. Because I was complaining about how much I procrastinate, and he told me, when you pay gratitude, you'll automatically feel more motivated to get stuff done, because you'll trust yourself more. You'll have that belief in yourself. So if you're a student, you have a time crunch, to-do list, 3 month goals, and gratitude. I think, yeah, that's my tip to every student listening.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Ma'am, uh, if someone wants to increase their presence on LinkedIn, what are the three pearls of advice you will give to expand their presence on this platform?
Great. Number one, optimization. You have to have an optimized profile. Nobody will identify you in like 3-4 billion people on the platform. You have to
Can you
have an
elaborate
optimized.
on
Yes,
can you elaborate on
absolutely.
optimization? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So optimization, number one, with your headline, write things that you have achieved. If you feel you don't have something concrete, it's absolutely okay. Write something that is your service. So I've seen a lot of people writing. If someone is maybe an advisor to entrepreneurs, they'll write helping entrepreneurs be successful in their businesses. That's an example.
Mm.
But what you
Mm.
have to do is, your headline has to define you as a person, either include numbers or social proof or services you're providing. If you're a student, write things that are your achievements. Your headline has to have that. It will help you not just reach the right people, not just increase your followers, but it also helps you in your SEO search. So if someone writes mentor on LinkedIn search, every person who's written mentor in their headline will pop up, right? And one opportunity like that might drastically change your life. So you want to make sure that you also have a headline which is SEO friendly. Number two, have a cover image which is where, defining what you have done, or defining something around your personality. So when you go to my profile, I have highlighted social proof. All the places I've spoken at, that is my cover page. And your cover page has to be either social proof or achievements plus a CTA. So for people who don't know, CTA is call to action, which means, what do I do after I see this profile? CTA is telling the person the next action you need to take after they have seen this. So CTA can be follow me, CTA can be a notification bell icon, anything. And that's how optimization works. That's so that whoever comes to your profile is bound to take that action that you're telling them to do. Okay? And that happens psychologically. You don't have to tell them, oh, follow me, or turn on the notification bell. A simple bell icon will also tell them that if they like your profile. Number three, about me, the area, once I've seen your picture. So your picture also has to be professional. Please do not put a selfie picture. I've told this to every student possible. Do not. Get a quote, click one picture in a quote. It's okay if you have that picture forever on your LinkedIn, but make sure you're putting a professional picture, not a one with a selfie, because you want to be seen as someone who's professional and ready to get on LinkedIn, right? And number four, your about me. The moment I've seen your picture, your cover image, your headline, I'll scroll down to read your story. Your about me has to be your story and your journey. If you have achievements, highlight them. If you don't have achievements, about me is the best way to show your story. Who was I and what have I been and how have I transitioned is the perfect way to tell people that I've also grown as an individual. So my about me tells everyone that I'm an introvert who has transitioned to an extrovert, and I've also achieved this. What that helps people know is that I'm not someone who was always a speaker, because hey, I wasn't. So they'll know my journey and understand that they can also achieve it too, right? So your about me has to be your story. When you have these four things in place, that's your optimized profile, number one. So we were talking about how to grow on LinkedIn. Number one, follow these four steps, have an optimized profile. Number two, if you really want to get serious about LinkedIn, start creating content. I would never say don't create content, because it's simple. Social media works on algorithms. You might reach 2,000, 3,000 people every day without creating content, but the moment you start creating content, your each post will reach 2,000 to 3,000 people. That's the difference. If someone comes on your profile, they should know you're also active on it, and they can get to know you or maybe connect with you. They should see that you're also active on the profile. Now, the moment I say create content, a lot of people say, what do I create content on? It could be something
Yes.
you're passionate about, your interest. You have to find a niche, because that's how you get started. But if you don't have a niche, just have 2 to 3 topics that you're passionate talking about. That's also a very easy way to finding your niche, because you don't need to be like, I will only talk about startups. It's fine if you also have 2 to 3 interests. I was someone who had interest in so many things. I wanted to talk about entrepreneurship, I wanted to talk about young people, I wanted to talk about social impact. I said I'll not narrow it down to one thing. I'll create content on all and see what is the audience I'm able to attract. So you have to experiment with that, but also, yes, start creating content to ultimately grow on any social media platform, not just LinkedIn. And number three, be very consistent with it. I know everyone's heard it everywhere that the only way to grow on social media is be consistent. But again, have a basic goal for you. It doesn't have to be like everyday posting, because it has to be valuable, but try to post at least twice a week. That's a goal I had set for myself, and I've stuck to it. Try to post twice a week so that people know that you exist, and people also know you add value, because when you post only twice a week, people will know that this is not some person who's randomly spamming every day, but someone who's very valuable in what they write. And number three, you will also reach out to more people and more feeds. You will pop up on feeds, and people will then start reading your content, and wherever it clicks, they might become a follower, they might become your mentors. It's happened with me so many times. Rather than followers, I've got the right kind of mentors through LinkedIn and through posts. So be very like, be sure you'll meet the most amazing people on LinkedIn if you utilize it well. So yes, I think that's my monologue. Follow these 3-4 steps and you'll get started with LinkedIn.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, surely, ma'am.
Thank you for such. So, ma'am, I was telling ki we are ESL, we revolve around startups. So, and we are now talking about content creation. So, my question is how content creation is going to help startups or founders or future leaders in future. So, how content creation is going to help these startups. So, can you please shed light on this thing?
I
And
think
how also share your story that how your 67,000 followers or maybe whatever you have achieved in different through different social media platform have helped in your organizational journey or in your startup growth.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll tell you one thing. Content creation and entrepreneurship is very closely linked, because when you're an entrepreneur, every person or stakeholder that you need comes through social media. They will definitely come through offline networking, offline connections as well. But if you have a solid online presence, that will help you in your offline networking as well. The moment you tell them your LinkedIn, the moment you exchange your cards, they'll know that you have a good online presence. Okay, so it will increase their interest in your company, in your startup, in your idea. Number two, again, I would never say that your idea is not important in a startup, but the way you market it is also very important. And for marketing, you need to have social media. Again, offline marketing is very helpful, but online में क्या होता है, it will get you the right kind of mentors, the right kind of investors, and the right kind of customers. And with LinkedIn, what I've realized is that you don't really need to talk too much about your startup. If people it's called personal branding, right? If people like you as a
Yeah.
personal brand, they'll want to know more about your company. So it's like I'm building my personal brand as well as talking about things that I'm passionate about. That is ultimately also what my startup does. Because if you've created a startup, it relates to you in some way or the other. It's either your passion, it's either a gap you found, something, right? For me, it was the same thing because social impact is something I talk about. My startup is closely linked to social impact. So everything that I talk about links to my startup indirectly. And then when I'm able to use LinkedIn to that, I get the right kind of mentors, I get the right kind of investors, and I get the right kind of customers. So very, very importantly, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to explore social media. Maybe not just LinkedIn, also have a different kind of presence on various social media platforms. Because again, anyone can come from anywhere. And as a startup owner, you want to maximize your reach, but LinkedIn is very, very important for it.
Ma'am, how did you remain motivated and remain consistent throughout your journey?
I told you, I think I just try to set goals for myself and I stick to them. So if you want that kind of motivation, again, for some people, motivation can be a vision. Some people, it can be a goals. Some people, it can be a person. So whatever your motivation is, remember your why always. And it's also very closely linked to your startups. Remember your why, whether you're a creator or an entrepreneur or maybe both. You have to remember your why very clearly so that that motivates you constantly. So if my why is to reach out to more and more countries for break the ice, I will create all the kind of content for my organization. I'll create all the kind of services and all the kind of events that will help me achieve that goal. So remember your why. Also take breaks, extremely important. I have always thought that overworking myself may help get stuff done, but I've realized that that doesn't happen because it decreases your efficiency. So make sure you also take breaks because that will ensure you're motivated to achieve more in the longer run. So yes, I think that's worked for me and I hope it does for other people.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I think it's now time to head towards another extraordinary achievement which you have done. So we are going toward you have served as regional officer for Asia Pacific for UN SDG goals. Okay, so could you take us through the journey of how you reached this significant position? Because you are serving as regional officer for whole Asia Pacific. So, uh, what means? Could you take us through the journey of how you reached this position and
Mhm.
how this all happened?
Absolutely. It's actually a very interesting story. So I had applied to the company that I was working for. The organization is called SDSN Youth, and what happened was I'd actually applied as a content writer, and during the interview I expressed my interest for social impact, for working as a leader for Asia Pacific. And my interviewer just mentioned, you know what, there is a position that will fit you perfectly and I think you should apply for it. So ultimately I had applied as a content writer, ended up being selected as a regional officer for Asia Pacific, and that's how I got selected. But a lot of people do ask me, how did I even get the opportunity, how did I even apply for the content writer position? So number one, LinkedIn helps a lot. Number two, during your interview you have to highlight what is your passion. And number three, remember that for such roles what happens is there is a lot of work that goes into it. So you also want to give it your all after you've gotten selected. For me, once I had gotten selected as a regional officer, I had to manage all the SDGs and work towards each and every SDG in the entire Asia Pacific region for all students and universities which were associated with the organization. So yeah, I think it was a great experience, and again, interesting story on how I landed up on it. But if you're someone who's passionate around international relations, sustainability, leadership, make sure that you follow the right kind of organizations and companies on LinkedIn so that those opportunities automatically pop up on your feed, because you might want to Google such opportunities, but 99% of the times you'll not be able to fit in terms of the deadlines. If you follow the right kind of companies, have your notifications on for those companies, whenever they post, you will get to know, and then you can decide if that's something that you're looking for in your resume, in your
Yes.
experiences, in your roles, and you can gradually, grab the opportunity.
So, ma'am,
So applying
given your
for
strong
a
focus
content
on
writer and landed on okay. Applying for a content writer and landed on Asia Pacific regional head. So that was an amazing journey. So Anmol, please continue.
Mhm. So, ma'am, given your strong focus on SDG 4, which revolves around education for all, so can you elaborate why you believe this particular sustainable development goal is so crucial? Education for all.
Mhm. Absolutely. So I have actually talked about this so much. I believe that education is that first step to also achieving every other SDG. If I am someone who is aware of number one, what are the SDGs? If I'm educated enough to know what are the SDGs, 60 to 65% of people will start working towards them automatically. Number two, I also feel that education drastically changes your life. So I've seen sadly that a lot of people don't get education in the right kind of way. So SDG 4 is quality education for all. Now, quality is the word that we need to focus on because technically everyone across the country and the world is getting some kind of education, even if it's not up to the mark, right? But what we need to focus as young people who have access to the internet, who have access to good resources, is to provide quality education to everyone across us. And that's what I've also worked on. And that's something which is common in all of the initiatives I'm a part of, that we need to provide quality education to everyone so that in the longer run, they are so aware that so many issues can be resolved immediately. When you're aware, you're able to take action. And when you're able to take action, half of the things get resolved. So even when when so we've done a lot of these workshops for younger people, for 6th to ninth underprivileged children through Break the Ice. We did one on mental health, we did one on menstruation, we did one on sustainability. And that's when we realized that there's a big lack and there's a big gap in the kind of education that so many people across our country and across the world get. So yeah, I think I'm very passionate about it, and I really hope that all of every young person who has access to good quality education, they can work
Yes.
towards empowering other people. So yes.
Mhm. Certainly.
Okay. So, as I have mentioned, that you have worked for as business mentor for various prestigious institutes like ESL, VNIT Nagpur, and ESL at Bombay, etc. So, you have a front row seat to this startup ecosystem. So, I want to ask you, what are some essential tips or pearls of wisdom from you that you would offer to startups in which are in early stages? Because we are seeing that there are many startups which are being registered and then closed in between 6 to 8 months or 1 year, and then not creating impact as they are showing in their MVP or thinking of. They are not that successful which they have think of. So, tips
Great
from you.
question. Mhm. Number one, again, I think I talked about this earlier. Be very clear with your why. It works very, very well with every entrepreneur, specifically early stage startups. Know your why very clearly so that at least in the early stage, you're able to establish the right kind of audience. Because for every startup, what happens is, and I've talked about this in every place that I've mentored, is that you have a target audience, you have an ideal persona, right? And you, in the initial stages, it's very important that you build that kind of audience that knows your vision, your mission, and your why very clearly. Because you might reach out to, suddenly what will happen is, if you take out a product in the market, there'll be 5,000 people who will randomly want that product, and let's take for example your Instagram reach expands to 5,000 followers. That's not success. Your success is when 5,000 people in your followers, for example, or 80 to 90% of your followers are your target audience. So you have to market yourself, you have to build your product, you have to pick problems that the audience is facing in such a manner that your target audience is reached directly. Okay, because what will happen is in the initial stage, you'll build an audience of 10,000 people, for example. But out of those, if only 2,000 people are even interested in what you're doing, is detrimental to your startup in the longer run. Because numbers will keep on increasing, but sales might not. So, how will you sustain yourself? You need to have the right kind of base at the very beginning so that whatever you do after that, at least you have that core base of very loyal customers, people who are ready to experiment with every product you launch. That's how you create loyalty. Number two, so again, that very closely, why, you link your why to everything you do so that you build your target persona very initially. Number two, market it well. Don't market it in an incorrect way. Market it in a way where it also proves that it's your, it's very, very like credible. but also market it well. If it's online for you, online marketing works very well. If it's offline marketing for you, go for networking events, pitch your product to everyone. Somewhere something will click. And number three, don't run after funds. I've realized this after being a part of a lot of mentorship programs myself, that a lot of people assume that the moment the valuation part comes into the picture, the funding round comes into the picture, everything will be sorted out. It will actually complicate things for you. That's when things get very, very serious. And until and unless you have a very solid, sustainably, positive base, nothing will work out for you in the longer run. So instead of just focusing on the money, I would not say money is not important. It's extremely important. But be ready for what it will also bring with it, because there'll be a lot
Yes.
of expectations, there'll be a lot of faces, there'll be a lot of eyes on you after you get that funding. So make sure instead of running after the funding first, build such a base that the moment you get that funds, it's only positive expansion from there. And again, you will fail a lot of times, don't worry about that. As young entrepreneurs, we feel like, now we are successful, so we'll be successful in everything we do. That will not happen. There'll be a lot of failures, but just make sure you have that kind of mindset to be ready to take those setbacks and come back maybe stronger. So yes, those are the 2 to 3 things you should remember before you even get started.
Yes, yes. So, ma'am, you recently participated in the Global Startup Summit 2023. Could you share some insights what you have gained from the Startup Summit?
Absolutely. So I think every summit that has a lot of startups and a lot of entrepreneurs, you learn everything that I just mentioned in the previous
Mm,
question.
mm,
How are they taking it to the next level? And I will actually recommend everybody who's an entrepreneur or an aspiring one to attend startup events every place, whether it's a pitching competition that has invitation for audiences, or a
mm,
summit or a conference. Because what happens with such things is that they end up being networking events a lot of times, so you get advice for free. So even if you're listening to advice being given to a different startup, you can directly implement it in your own. So it's very, very useful advice that you get for free, even before you are pitching your idea and getting that nervousness and that anxiety of being presenting your pitch to other people.
mm,
So I think, yeah, that's what I've always learned from every summit. And even when I attended the Global Startup Summit, that's what I learned, that there are so many successful entrepreneurs, but what comes down to how all of them are successful is that they've experimented a lot. They're very, very clear with their why and their target audience, and they've also made a lot of mistakes and risen from them. So for every entrepreneur, you will face all of this, and you just need to know how to navigate it through, specifically in the initial stages. Because if you want to do the short run, you will be successful for 3 years and you'll end up burning out the company as well as you as a person. But you want to be in it for the longer run, to just be a successful entrepreneur, and for that you have to navigate and you have to experiment.
mm.
Okay. So, uh, so ma'am, means I want to ask you some about the startup wala thing. Many startups are now running towards funding, and they are just playing the next round game. And you are running at the opposite way. You are means you founded a non-profit organization. So how you are managing your organization? Are you paying to your volunteers, or what is your means way of business doing this startup or organization running the startup thing? So can you please tell us
Got
about?
it. So, for us and for most non-profit, how it works is that even if you're a non-profit, you need some kind of funds to sustain. So it will not be a profit; it will be utilized in the events and in the processes itself. But for us also, it's similar. So for most non-profits, every event, how you are able to fund it is a way in which you don't make money; you get access to funds. So for us also, it's similar. We have sponsors who can help us in conducting our event successfully and also creating that tangible impact. We're also looking forward to creating an app which will be based on subscription models, so that we can also take it to a next level and actually create that kind of impact in more and more countries. So yes, that's what we're doing. And currently we're a non-profit, but let's see, hopefully we will have some kind of branch under it that can also ensure that we can sustain it for the longer run.
So you are a very good speaker. So I want some tips from you on public speaking and how does you change, because you have mentioned that you are a 9-year introvert girl and now you are 2021 and you are being the one of the best speakers. So what is your journey and how could I or somebody listening to our podcast can improve their speaking skills? So
Got it.
it
Um,
would help us.
to be very honest, it's very, very subjective. It depends on why you are not a good speaker. So for me, it was the lack of exposure because I was very nervous of judgment and I feared, just talking too much because I was an introvert. So if you're an introvert and you want to be a speaker, one thing which worked very well for me, it is going to sound very weird, but just stand in front of the mirror and practice what you want to say. It sounds strange because you're talking to yourself, and it also sounds strange when I'm telling you, what you could do. But once you get into the habit of just knowing what you want to say many times, so it's not like you will plan your entire speech. It means at least the first para, maybe your elevator pitch. Elevator pitches are 30-second introductions about you that you can make with everybody anywhere you go, imagining that you only have 30 seconds with them. So uh, if you have your 30-second elevator pitch very, very clearly defined and you practice it more and more every day in front of the mirror, what will happen is your first impression with that person will be very positive, and that will reduce your nervousness to talk more with them, because you'll be like, this went well, I can talk to this person comfortably now. So, if you're an introvert, you want to be a good speaker, experiment with firstly talking to yourself in front of the mirror and at least having those one or two paragraphs that you're very comfortable talking about everywhere. It can be an elevator pitch, it can also be your basic introduction that you want to say to an audience if you are ultimately, hoping to be a speaker. So that. Number two, practice a lot. Never have a speech memorized. That is not how it will work. What will happen is, I've tried this myself. What will happen is, 2 to 3 times you will give very good speeches. The next time you will freeze the moment you forget a word in that speech, and that's worse than having pointers in your mind and creating that, conversational speech at that very moment. So you don't want to freeze on the stage. So don't memorize your speech entirely. Just know the pointers you want to cover and experiment on the stage itself. It depends on the audience as well. If they're interactive, your conversations will automatically flow. And if they're not interactive, you will want them to be interactive. So you'll have to engage them. So very, very different speaking styles they are. So
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
practice, but don't memorize your speech. Talk to yourself in front of the mirror. And one thing I used to do is also journal. So I used to write the pointers I want to talk about, because what happens is a lot of times I'm not able to put my words like, in complete sentences, but I'm able to write them very well. I'm able to express my feelings very well on paper, and then I'm able to like narrate them out. So if that's someone, if you relate to that, then try to write down what you want to say and then practice how you want to say it. So that also really helps when you're just starting out with speaking. And yeah, practice voice modulation. You'll get a whole lot of YouTube free videos for that. Whenever you get the time and whenever you get the motivation to do so, just practice with voice modulation a lot. That will make you the one of the best speakers. So yes.
As you said, I certainly believe that most of us are very good writers, but not that good speakers. So, yeah.
Ma'am,
So
uh,
I think we have now put back up and
I have
now
one question, ma'am.
yeah.
Ma'am, could you share some books and or resources if you have come across to on our public speaking skills?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So to be honest, no, I heard the question. So to be honest, I would say read according to what interests you, rather than focusing on specific topics like public speaking, startups. That's something that I personally do. But if you have to read, uh, firstly start with books that are more based on personality development. So if someone has heard books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, read that book. It's an excellent book, not just on people, but on psychology of people. So read books that are related to the psychology of people, because what that helps is it also helps you as a person, so that you don't really need a lot of help in public speaking, but you're able to understand how do I talk to people. Because a
Yes,
lot of
ma'am.
times,
Yes.
all of us are good speakers. We just don't know how to deliver our speeches well. Everybody can put pointers together and speak, but what every good speaker has is connect with the audience. And for that, you need to know the psychology of individuals and of human minds rather than have a knowledge of public speaking. Because public speaker, everybody can become, but that will be very rigid, that will be very, straight to the point. But how do I become a memorable speaker is how do I connect with people. So read more books on psychology. Just search psychology books for speakers. You'll get a whole lot of books. Try to invest in
Yeah,
as many
yeah.
as possible. And also start reading. So I do this. I read 10 minutes every day. I've got into the habit after 2 years of COVID because I'd completely lost touch of reading. Because I used to listen to audiobooks and, podcasts. So I kind of lost touch, but I'm getting back to it. And I would just say start with psychology books. Gradually, when you understand the psychology of how human minds work, that's when you focus on the specific niche you are talking about. So if it's startups, read 1 or 2 books on startups. Read Zero to One. It's a beautiful book on startups and business. If you're someone
Yeah,
who's more into, yes, so
no, yeah, please continue.
and if you're not into startups, if you maybe are someone into maybe personality development, read those kind of books. So again, it depends on your niche, but start with psychology first because that's important for every niche across every speaker. So yes, that's my little bit of advice for everyone who's just trying to excel in reading.
Yeah, also
Okay.
for entrepreneurs, psychology will help to understand what the consumer is thinking and what they need. So it may help to increase their sales and also productivity. So, okay. So recently, I was going through your LinkedIn and I thought that you are graced to iconic Times Squares in New York. So how does it feeling and how does it happen? Because I think TopMate or TopMate.io is something connection in it. So could you please shed some light on that thing?
Absolutely. So yes, so TopMate is a platform that provides helps people get connected to mentors, and I'm one of the mentors on their platform. And they had featured my story and my journey of impact as one of the best mentors on their platform on Times Square. And in terms of the feeling, oh, it was incredible. I think a lot of times you don't expect, you have dreams, but there are some dreams that are way out of your range. And that was one of the dreams that was like way out of my range, specifically from the time that I was an introvert. Because of course you've seen Times Square, it's iconic not to be noticed, but you feel like, okay, what can I do to go there? Maybe nothing, maybe it's that unachievable. And then when that happened, I was like, wow, this is the example of having big dreams. So yes, it was a brilliant
Mhm.
feeling. And hoping for like creating more and more impact.
Yes, true.
So I think we need to wrap up now. So as we wrap up this engaging conversation, it's very clear that Palakh's ma'am's journey is a beacon of inspiration for all of us. She is not just a speaker, entrepreneur, and a mentor too, but a symbol of what dedication, passion, and a relentless pursuit of positive change can achieve. So thank you, ma'am, for being on our podcast and being a part of this
Thank you very much,
initiative,
ma'am.
which is taken by ESL and IT Rourkela. And so this is it. So
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Thank you, Aditya. Thank you,
Thank you very
Anmol.
much,
I think
ma'am.
that was a
Thank you,
lovely
ma'am.
questions and a great conversation. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Thank